Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about Mercury in the fifth house. Some celebrities that we have that I wrote down that I thought really exemplified this placement are Alexa Demi, Maddie in Euphoria, Amy Winehouse, and we have Steve Jobs. And I'm going to get into how they exemplify different aspects of this a little bit later in the video. First, we have the fifth house. The fifth house is, and I'm looking down at my notes, the fifth house is things that are fun to us. It is our ego, it's what gives us confidence, it's dating, it's our creative pursuits, the things that we create, and it is our greatest creation of all. It is our children. And then Mercury, as I've been saying throughout the series, is communication of all kinds. This is text, this is email, this is written notes, this is verbal phone calls, this is talking face to face. Mercury is our literal voice. How does it actually sound? The tone, does it have an accent? Do we have a stutter? Things like that. It's our conscious mind, the stuff that we actively are thinking about and we try to actively pursue. For example, like how you would get to a place. You're using your conscious mind. How do I cook this meal? You're using your conscious mind in those ways. It is also the kind of topics that we may be interested in and like to read or talk about. So when it comes to the fifth house, I wanted to start with things that we think are fun. These are things that could widely be regarded as nerdy. These could be things like crossword puzzles, Sudoku, fixing gadgets, taking phones apart, taking things apart and putting them back together, coding. I've heard people who code say that it's really fun to them, but it is considered nerdy to other people. So stuff like that is going to be fun to you guys. Things that require effort to learn are things that are also going to be fun to you guys. So really any sort of skill that you're picking up, anytime you're learning about something, a skill that you can repeatedly use in the future, that's going to actually be fun to you. And that's where I thought that Steve Jobs came in. He was interested in learning about computers at a time where computers and technology were not, we all didn't have a smartphone. It wasn't just the standard to have a laptop or a cell phone in your house. It wasn't even standard to even have access to a computer at all. Learning about those things was fun to him, gave him ego, gave him confidence, was enjoyable, and allowed him to use his mind to keep going down that path of technology, which allowed Apple to be, and it's not to say that he's the only one that drives the company of Apple. It's such a huge company, but he is the CEO for a reason. Him being interested in technology and being interested in learning allows Apple to be at the forefront of technology, allows the majority of phones to be purchased, that they're iPhones, allows the brand to be at the cutting edge of technology always. And I feel like he is such a great face of that and such a person to represent that, because that is what's fun to him. Learning how the little chips can be better, learning how to make the phone thinner, how to make the camera better. That is stuff that we enjoy as a consumer, but it's probably not super fun and, again, considered a little bit nerdy or niche, I should say, when it comes to figuring out how to actually get there. So Steve Jobs is a great example. Things that are fun to you are things that require skill. I also wrote down playing in a band. When you're playing in a band, I think this is just so perfect for you guys. You are using a skill that you had to learn. Nobody comes out just knowing how to play an instrument. You had to learn something. You repeatedly do it so you get better. You're constantly having to use your mind for this skill. You can't just like halfway be asleep and play the guitar or play the piano. You have to like be mentally engaged. So that's fun. And then when we bring in the fifth house, there's this real performative aspect where it's like, I'm showing off my skill. I'm showing how great I can play the drums. I'm showing how great I can play the guitar or how great I can sing, because it's your voice. So any sort of thing that requires skill, anything that requires dexterity of the hands. I wrote down video games. Some games are just mash button games like Smash Bros. And then some games you actually like Call of Duty. You have to like look around, you have to be alert, you have to talk on the headphones to the other players, and you have to like duck and do all this stuff. It requires dexterity. I've played multiple times. I don't have great dexterity and I was terrible. I keep getting killed, but there are some people who enjoy the quickness and the alertness and the nimbleness of the fingers, which allows them to be good at the game. So those are the kind of things that a fifth house Mercury person is really going to excel at. Other things that require dexterity could be sewing or knitting, building actual products or materials, making and creating things. I would say you guys um, definitely enjoy hobbies that are like hands-on and physical. Hobbies can, be a bunch of different things, but something like making pottery, something where you are constantly making, molding, using your hands is just going to be something that gives you a lot of joy, a lot of ego, a lot of confidence. And the things that you make, you're really going to want to show them off because you're so proud. You're like, look what I did with my hands. My hands created a vase, or blown glass statue, or even you could be a hairdresser. Look at what I've done with this person's hair. I've done an elaborate style, stuff like that. You're gonna like things that require talking. I said games that are smart games. Things like Dungeons and Dragons, where you have to think, you have to write a storyline. The characters have to have some personality. So there's a lot of writing, there's a lot of thinking involved, there's a lot of talking. It's not just like roll the dice, okay, I'm gonna move 10 pieces. And there's nothing wrong with those kinds of games either. But board games that make you think, board games such as Scrabble, big into chess, I would think. Checkers, not so much, because it's kind of just straightforward. It's like, okay, I'm gonna move a piece here, move a piece there, and there's nothing wrong with checkers either. I love checkers. But when you're playing games like chess, when you're playing games like poker, when you're playing games where it's like, I really have to show you and I want to show you how smart I am because this is my Mercury in the 5th house. Your Mercury is smart, but you also have a Mercury that wants to play. So when it's playing around, it's like, ha ha ha, look how smart I am. Oh, I got you. Oh, you have 2 pair, well, I have a flush. Oh, you thought you spelled a long word, well, I have a longer word. Those kinds of things. And it's not to be condescending. It's not to say that I'm better. It's not like your Mercury is saying I'm better. Your Mercury is just like, it wants to show off a little bit. And it's an aspect of your life, and it's an aspect of your personality that you are proud to show off. You're proud to like let your Mercury, you're like, yeah, get up on stage. Show everyone how smart we are. I am. Any kind of writing is going to be very fun to you guys, whether you are writing a fiction novel, whether you are writing a play. You can even write for songs. You could be like a ghostwriter. You can write little short stories and put them on YouTube. And I don't even mean like that you have to be doing this on a grand scale. You don't have to be like a ghostwriter for like Drake. You don't have to be on the world stage. You can be, but this is just something you can do for your friends. I have a boss of mine. We work at a restaurant and he's my boss. He works there full time, but in his free time, he plays in a band. You don't have to be at the top of the industry. I'm sorry, let me move this light. You don't have to be at the top of an industry to let your Mercury shine in your own life. It can just shine in a way that makes you happy. You also like occupying spaces where you get to talk about yourself. This is also the house of our ego and our confidence, and we just have so much to, like, we want to speak about that part of ourselves. We want to speak how great we are. We want to let you know. We feel like that's a good way, and I say we, not that I have this, but just as a native channeling this energy, you guys want to let everyone know how great you are. You want to let everyone know how funny you are and how charismatic and playful and how great your life is, that you lead this exciting life and you have all these exciting things going on, and you were over here and you were playing with this, and then you wrote this, and then you learned this skill, and then you created this. There's all this like good feeling around that, and you really want to express that to the world. You think that it's interesting. Mercury is what we're interested in talking about. You think that this aspect of your life and these topics are interesting. We're not going to go up to somebody and talk about things that we think are boring. We're going to talk about the things that we like. And for you guys, that's you. And that's not always a bad thing. So books, reading, and podcasts about things that could be about self-confidence, things that we are interested in, particular hobbies that you have, or you may like to write books or be involved in podcasts and speaking where you can share who you are with the world. So those are the kind of things that's really going to like tickle your fancy and the kind of things that you guys will enjoy doing. When it comes to your ego is really centered around your thoughts, your words, your expressions, and your ideas. You think very highly of yourself. You think very highly of this part of yourself, the things that you think, how your mind works, the things that you have to say and have said. You are very proud. The fifth house is a self-fulfilling prophecy, I always call it. It's a self-fulfilling cycle. It feeds itself. It's like a snowball effect. When you think any fifth house placement and planet and any Leo placement works the same way. When you think that you are great, you will act and speak about yourself as if you are great because you really believe it. When you put that out to the world, that confidence, and you project yourself, other people, just by way of natural psychology, are going to start to think that you are great too. They are going to start to give you that feedback of you are great. They are going to sort of assuage, they are going to venerate the planet or the aspect of yourself that you're putting on stage. People are going to be like, yeah, that is great. This is going to then close the loop, and it's going to be an affirmation of, you go back to the beginning of the circle. I'm great. So how I felt like Alexa Demi fits into this is that she's an actress. In order to be an actress, in order to be a performer of any kind, you have to have some confidence. You have to get up on the stage. If you don't get up on the stage, no one will ever know that you are good or even know how to do blank thing, and it's just going to be hidden. In order to be an actress, you have to first, because this is a creative aspect, so that's how she's channeling this fifth house. She has this creative side of wanting to act and be dramatic. She also has the confidence to get up there and to audition and to say the words. And I think, especially in America, I don't know how it works in other countries, everybody wants to be famous. Everybody wants to be on screen. Everybody wants to be on camera. Everybody wants to be the star of the show. So there's so many people fighting and vying for the same position. And then if any of us try to be an actor, actress, singer, model, whatever, taking out the aspect of social media for a second, we would have to face a lot of rejection, go on a lot of auditions, and people say, no, I'm okay. Or I want to pick somebody more famous, or I want to pick my friend's kid or whatever to fulfill this role. When you truly have this fifth house Leo energy, that it means nothing to you. You're just like, you're in shock for a second. You're like, I can't believe that you can't see that I was the right choice. You never doubt yourself. And that's why I felt like she was such a great example. No matter what you may think about her acting skills, I think she's a great actress. It's about the confidence to get up there and grab that mic and be like, no, I'm auditioning now. This is my time. So I thought she was great. When it comes to our ego, we really, like I said before, we want to talk about ourselves. When I was writing the notes for this video, it reminds me of this girl in high school that I will never forget. She was an Aries, so I think that was part of it, but every day, the first class of the day was English class, and we had a do now, and we had to answer some sort of question that was related to like a book we were reading or a topic that we were on, and we would have to say, the teacher would write something like, name a time where you felt rejected in middle school and how did you handle it? And we'd all have to write in the journal, and then at the end of the 5 minutes, the teacher would say every single day, okay class, who wants to share? And nobody raised their hand ever except for this one girl named Cecily. Every day she was like, I want to, and she would tell a story every single day of the year. There was 2 times where I just couldn't take it anymore and I didn't even want to share. I just raised my hand just so it wouldn't be Cecily. And both times the teacher called on me because it was just like somebody else has to answer. She never did not answer. She was the only one, and she was so vocal about herself. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not that I'm putting her down. It was just interesting, and I've always remembered, it's like 13 years later, how much somebody was willing to share about who they were and how interested they were in themselves, that they felt it worthy of sharing. So another example of just how like an everyday kid or an everyday child can exemplify a fifth house Mercury sort of energy in their life. Anytime that there is a way for you to input something, if you're in a meeting, if you're in at work as an adult, if you're in a group project, if you're on a family phone call or a Zoom, anytime that people are like, hey, what about some input? What do you guys think? You're always very much ready to share your ideas because you're like, this is great. Everyone has to hear this because once they do, they're going to be blown away by how great this is. You are always advertising and offering your thoughts to others. You are always, it's like flowers popping up like from your mind, but then they pop up out in the real world through your mouth. You're like, what about this? And what about that? Anytime you have a thought, if there's a survey, if somebody asks your opinion or whatever, you're just like, I got one. You're like, I'm right there. I'm ready to share with you guys what I think. You're very proud of your literal words. So as I said before, you could be very much into writing a book. You're very into hearing your own voice. Mercury is also our literal voice, how it literally sounds. The sign and the planets that are aspecting it will also change the sound of your voice. Two other people that I thought exemplified this were Amy Winehouse and Dua Lipa. Amy Winehouse was such a powerhouse of a voice, a great musical catalog. I still listen to her today. She had so much to say about her life, even her breakout song Rehab, which is, I'd argue, her most famous song, but she has a lot of other songs where she's talking about her life. She's talking about her addiction. It's so real, it's so honest, it's so raw, and that's part of the reason why that song blew up, because it's easy to make like a cutesy pop song, but to really make a real song that's genuine from your heart about something you're going through, it like gripped us. That was like one of the main songs I heard in the year like 2006, 2007. That was all that was being played. That and Umbrella. I remember it vividly. Being honest, saying who you are, it gains you this attention, and you don't mind putting it out there. And I think she didn't mind putting it out there because she's like, look, I got a story to tell. I went through some crazy shit and I've got to share it. I got to get it out in a creative way. I got to put this out to the world. And it's just such that genuineness that is received. That's another part of why the fifth house is always going to be at the top. It's always going to be king. It's always going to be popular, because the fifth house in Leo energy is the true embodiment of someone being themselves. They think that they are so great. They truly believe it, that they don't have to put on an act. They don't have to try to be cool. There is no moments of awkwardness or insecurity or reticence to say or to do anything, because in their mind, they're like, no, I got this. I'm me. What do you mean? They just cannot see it any other way. Fifth house energy, Leo energy, truly, truly is fascinating to me. I really love it. So that is one way, one person who really exemplifies, I think, Mercury in the fifth house. We also have Dua Lipa. On a personal note, I really can't stand Dua Lipa. Not as a person, I think she's a great person. I just think her music is really, really annoying, really generic and poppy. And I'm just like, ugh. But it doesn't matter what I think, because she thinks it's great. She's like, I'm going to be on stage. This is my song. I'm going to be on the radio. I'm going to sing. And so I thought that that was another great example of the fifth house. It's like someone who I really like and someone who I don't like, but it doesn't matter, because that energy and that confidence in the voice comes from within them. There are probably a thousand or a couple thousand other people who also agree with me about Dua Lipa's music just being so, like, it's really, it's just generic to me, but it doesn't matter. And that lack of care about what somebody else thinks especially around this topic, is what leads a fifth house Mercury to go so far. Another great example. Another thing, because Mercury is a sign of Gemini, very witty, very funny. Geminis are very funny. I'm really just starting to like learn that within this last year. You're really proud of your jokes. You really love to at any time just be like you love to just add a little something in there. You always throw it in. You think that your jokes are funny. You really can do well at stand-up comedy, or you could just kind of be a little bit of a class clown. We all have jokes in our head that like sometimes we say it and it doesn't really come out right, or it's like it's funny in here but we don't really know how to translate it. You not only know how to translate it, but you just have that confidence. You're like, I know this is funny. And so when you deliver it like you think you know it's funny, then people laugh because they sense that there was no barrier to from here to getting it out. There was no like, oh my god, maybe I should say like that. You just let it flow. People, human beings, are really, really attracted to confidence. And so that's another reason why you can excel in this area. You're also very proud of and very egotistical in a good way about your quotes and about your idioms. A lot of times people keep quotes from other people. If you can see on my mirror here, I have like quotes that I think are really impactful, and that's why they're up there, obviously. I also have a quote list in my phone and my notes, just any great quotes I hear from my friends, family, just in the world. If it's really impactful, I'll just jot it down. A fifth house Mercury is the type of person who would keep a list of quotes that they said. They would keep things that they're like, damn, I said that. That was so impactful. Like up there is going to be stuff that came out of their mouth. And so that's just another way of having this real confidence in this verbal mental aspect of our lives. Mercury is also our trains of thought and how we think through a problem. So this could lead us into leadership roles, especially if you're working at a business where you have to like work on a project and there's many different aspects. You need somebody who's going to be able to think, but somebody who's also confident and able to lead a group and able to speak in front of others with charisma. So that might lead you to positions of being a project manager. I don't know what that is, but a lot of people have told me that that's their job. And that just sounds like something that would fit here. Something where you're leading a group at work, a group effort, a team effort. You really can be in the forefront, especially when the project that you guys are working on requires some sort of creative problem solving. Stuff like that. Also, on a smaller side note, Mercury is also our siblings. So you can be quite boastful of your siblings because your sibling could be very creative. Maybe you work on a creative project with your sibling and you're constantly just like boosting them up and you're constantly so proud of the things that they've been doing. But overall, you are most boastful about your children. I've noticed, and I don't have any children, but I've noticed that people who do have children love to talk about them. I've just sort of accepted that as like a human experience. And I've accepted that one day when I have kids, that I will probably talk nonstop about them. That's just what I see. But there are some people in life who it's like all they talk about is their kids. And I just want to be like, can you shut the fuck up about your kids? Like, I don't really care that much. This is your kid, not mine. But you kind of just go with it because you don't want to be rude. These are those people. They'll constantly be like, oh, like at any point in time, oh, my daughter, she just won this gymnastics championship, or oh, my son is on honor roll, I have to go do this. They'll just constantly bring up their kids, constantly bring up their kids' accomplishments and how smart their kids are and how varied their interests are and how creative they are, constantly boosting up their children. That is something that they feel so proud about, because their child is their creation, and they're like, again, why would I not share the best creation of myself? My child's so interesting. Everybody wants to hear, right? That's how they feel. So speaking of kids, when it comes to children, you can be prone to having twins. They can, because this is the energy of Gemini, they can just pop up at the same time. You can have twins. Your kids can be Gemini or they can be Gemini-like. Most likely your kids will be the sign that is in your 4th or 5th house. But if they're not, they could just be Gemini-like. They could have be very talkative. They can have a lot of thoughts. They can have a lot of different interests at the same time, and they can just be involved in a lot of things. You may give your child, or they may give you, because this relationship goes both ways, a relationship in which there is a huge amount of variety. And I'm sure anyone who has a kid can relate to this, because I remember being like this with my own mom. Like, your kid can be scrolling through TV and find a show, and then it's very interesting. Even if it's a show that you may not have personally picked, or you may have looked up, like passed it over and thought it wasn't that interesting, your kid has this varied interest, and so it brings you a new interest. And you might watch a show and be like, wow, that show's actually really good, or this book, or this topic, or this hobby I never really paid too much attention to is actually really interesting, makes me feel smart, and just opens our mind up, like opens a window in our mind to something completely new, a new aspect of life. Or it goes the other way around. Maybe your child is watching you play guitar, and then they watch you read a book, and then you're working out, and then you're cooking. And so there's this reciprocal relationship going on between you and your child, of where each of you is expanding the mind of the other and just making life, just life in general, more interesting. Gives you more to talk about, more to learn, more to do. And I think that that is super beautiful. Maybe your child one day is like interested in this, and then you find out they're also interested in that. You may not even know all of the things that your child is interested in. Maybe one day they come down from the room and they're like, look what I created. And you see that they've built a model plane, or that they've sewed something together and made a new piece. You can see that they've done something creative that you didn't even know that they were interested in. And not only you didn't know they were interested in that they were doing this thing, it's actually a really good piece. You're actually impressed. You're like, wow, I didn't even know you could sew or were interested in sewing. And then you've made this and you're looking at this new thing and you're like, this is actually great. Gives you more of a chance to boost your child up and give them that ego and that confidence, like, you're great doing something with your hands. This is great energy. It keeps you on your toes. I think especially as adults, like, and especially the older and older you get, we can tend to fall in this routine, and we can tend to fall in this pattern where we kind of start to listen to the songs that we always listen to, and we start to do the things that we always do, or we watch the same type of shows that we always watch. And that variety and that curiosity that kids have, like, wanes as we get older. And this child is going to constantly keep you young-ish. It's going to constantly keep you feeling young and give you a young personality, because they're constantly, as that like window is shutting and less air is coming in, the air being a metaphor for variety. Your child is like, no, we're opening this back up. What about this song? What about this? What about this? And constantly teaching you new stuff when it comes to dating, because this is people that we like to date. When we first meet them, when we're first getting to know each other, we are settled in the 5th house. You can be very interested in a mercurial partner, somebody who is Gemini-like, or somebody who could just have Gemini maybe in the 1st, or it's like their chart ruler or something like that. Somebody who is nimble. You really, really love a talker. Anybody who I've seen with Gemini in relation to love, whether it be Venus in Gemini, Venus in the 3rd, Mercury in the 5th, loves to talk with their partner, and they want a partner who can talk. If you're not going to talk, if you're quiet, if you're okay with moments of silence, this is going to be a super turn off. I've dated 2 different people, one who had a Gemini stellium with Venus and Mars and Mercury in Gemini, and I dated somebody else with Venus. It was in Libra, but it was in the 3rd. I have a Mercury in the 12th house, and I'm a 12th house stellium, so I am totally okay and need bouts of silence. I need you to be quiet, and I need to be quiet sometimes. Even when I do these videos, sometimes I'm like, whew, there's a lot of talking. they were really upset. You need somebody who is going to talk, who is going to stimulate you. And we're not talking about the same things because, again, this is variety. I want to talk about what you did in your day. And even if you did the same thing today that you did yesterday, I want you to tell me something new. If you drove to work and drove home, I want you to tell me about something you've seen or something. Like, you have to keep talking about new topics. It's something that you just find exciting and fun. You're always interested in what the person you're dating, what do they have to say? How are they boasting themselves up? Just the same way you're boasting yourself up, how are they boasting themselves up? What interesting and fun things have gone on in their life that they need to share? What have they created? And if it's nothing, you're going to be gone pretty quickly. And that's because with the duality of Mercury here, you can have a tendency to have multiple partners at the same time. You can tend to have partners that overlap or slightly overlap. Like as soon as you're done, you may be on to the next one. Or once you feel like something is not really going well, you've already kind of started to have a wandering eye for who else you might date next. This is not only fun to you, this duality, because it's Mercury, but it's also because we are trying to learn about what it is that we want. I'm sorry, move this light. We are trying to learn about what it is that we want in a partner. And I think that as you get older and you date more people, we can all attest to the fact that when we dated Susie or Joe, we liked that they maybe were very clean and punctual, but we wanted a little more spontaneity. And then when we dated Mark, we liked his spontaneity, but we wanted a little bit deeper intellectual conversation. Each time you date somebody, you find good and bad things, and it helps you really solidify, like, what did I like from all of my partners and what did I not like from all of them, to try to find the person who possesses that. And so that's also about why you like to date around and date multiple people, because you're trying to learn before you settle down, before we get into that seventh, before I make you my lifetime partner. Who do I even want here? It's a complex question. You really enjoy reading and talking about relationship dynamics. There's a book that I have been really interested to read. It's called All About Love by Bell Hooks. I'm going to put it here. The Call Her Daddy podcast, the 5 love languages, anything that teaches you about dating and confidence and love and charisma and sexuality, but like the fun kind where you're just like attracted to someone, you feel like a lust for someone. The Art of Seduction is a great book. Those are the kinds of things that you are really going to be interested in reading. You're going to soak all this knowledge up. This is the kind of information you're going to read one time and you're never going to forget it. You're really going to also love to take this stuff, like these podcasts about dating and stuff like that. And you're going to want to bring these topics up with other people and talk about them and talk about what you've read. And you're really going to want to share with your partner. Most of all, I think you would really love a partner who is also equally interested in those kinds of things so that you guys could talk about it. You also really enjoy talking about your partner and boasting your partner up. You, when you're with your friends or you're with your family, are going to be like, look, I'm dating this guy and he's cute and he's smart and he's funny and he's got a great credit score. Oh, did I tell you that he just went to Japan? And then also he's great with kids. And you love just boasting them up, just talking about like, I'm with this person and they're so great. And you really want them, really want them. You need them to do the same for you. You need your partner to be talking about and acknowledging and stroking your ego about how great you are. But you need to hear that verbally. Words of affirmation is one of the 5 love languages, and that is just something that you need. You need for them to verbalize, you look great today. Some people, if you have more Scorpio in your chart or something like that, like if your partner is looking at you, you will know that they admire you. A Sagittarius, if your partner makes a joke or is playing with you, you'll know that they might be more attracted to you on this day. But when it's Mercury in the 5th, you need them to say, you need them to boast you up so you can just have those words in your mind from somebody that you're dating all day. Yeah, my boyfriend or my girlfriend said I look good today. They said they love the way my ass looks in these jeans. They said that they love the way that I walk through a room. They love the way that I handle X situation or Y situation. That does it for you. You need that. So if you have someone who does this, you're going to be on cloud 10. You're going to be happy. You're going to be confident. You're going to be going on dates. If you have someone who does not do that, I would recommend you really verbalize, as you guys are so great at doing, that that's part of something that you would really like in a relationship, and see if that person can or is willing to sort of incorporate that to try to make you happy, make your 5th house happy. You are also constantly thinking about dating. You are constantly thinking about who you want to date, why you want to date them, what dates you might like to go on. You might be like, I like Chris for my job because blank. And then you're always thinking about Chris, and you're always thinking about the way that he helped you with this paper, or the way that he carried this over here. The people you're interested in and why you're interested in them is always on your mind. And it's not necessarily that you're having fantasies like a 12th house or Neptunian, but your mind is thinking. If you're driving home and you see like, oh, there's a skating rink, or you're driving and you see like there's a play in town, because your mind is already on Chris and how cute he was when he did this thing at work or wherever, your mind just makes a connection. Oh, maybe I should ask Chris if he wants to go to this play that's next week. You're always thinking about dating. And the reason that I think a Mercury can move on so fast from one to the other, or can have multiple, is because when you're always thinking about something and there's no one there, let's say you break up with Chris, this metaphorical Chris, you're still, when you're driving home, going to see like, oh, there's a basketball game, there's a home game in town and I want to go, and that'd be a great date idea. That sentence runs through your head all the time. Oh, that would be a great date idea. But now Chris is gone. So now what? You're not just going to be like, oh, whatever, I'll just go by myself, oh, I'll just go with my friends. You're going to be like, well, who can I take in place of Chris? And then you're going to start to be like, you know what? John at my job is really hot, and he always stays late, and he works really hard. And actually, I really like John. You know what? I'm going to ask John. And that's sort of how your mind works. You are very much, as soon as one relationship ends, looking for someone new to fill the empty spot in the fantasy of your mind that is constantly around dating. So guys, that was Mercury in the 5th. I had a really good time making this video. I think it's a super interesting placement, and I really want you guys to, as always, go in the comments and tell me how you feel with having this placement in your life, what I got right, and what some things you think I missed. And I will see you guys for the next video for Mercury in the 4th.